Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror. I am your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner and operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events. And welcome to this amazing podcast in which we get to discuss all types of horror films from different decades, different time periods, different countries, and different subgenres. One of the ones we're doing today is actually a film that's infamous, more so than it is a very good movie. And we're going to get to that in a little bit later in our conversation. But before I mention the name of the film, I want to mention the two people who are my guests on the show, which is Dave Watkins and Philip Ray. Thank you guys for joining us on this conversation this week.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us back. Yeah.
And the infamous film we are going to delve into because we love so much to make sure that all of you out there get a little sneak peek at some of the more infamous films that you probably definitely have not seen but heard about is Stephen King's Maximum Overdrive. Now, this is a film that he actually directed as well as wrote, and he based it on one of his short stories, which is called Trucks, which also coincidentally was also remade into another movie also called Trucks. But we're not going to be discussing that movie because that movie does not compare to this film in any way. So to start off this episode of Conversations in Horror, guys, I gotta know, what is like your first impression of having watched Maximum Overdrive? Is it something that you guys saw when it originally came out? Did you watch it years later, or how about you, Philip?
Well, this is first off, this is a 1986 film. Just to put that in perspective.
Well, I guess that's good to know because I don't think Philip was born in '86.
I was like 8 years old when it came out, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think I saw it in the theaters.
Yeah, no, I mean, basically, I didn't watch it when I was actually the way I came about it was there's some YouTubers I watched that they reviewed like bad movies and then they reviewed it, and I was like, this is interesting. And then I decided to watch the full movie to get like the full context of everything. So that's my introduction to Maximum Overdrive. Again, the Green Goblin truck, I is very iconic. I saw that before I even knew what Maximum Overdrive was.
Yeah, for a movie.
Yeah, and that Green Goblin, I didn't even realize it was from Spider-Man for a long time.
Considering that that's like the most iconic and infamous piece of art in the film for this film, and that's what everyone recognizes, but they don't actually know if they've actually seen the movie. It's quite funny. When I saw this at maybe 10 or 11 years old, somewhere around there, I'd seen it right after it came out. So my whole brain was warped by the fact that my mother loves Stephen King, and we kind of saw all the Stephen King movies as they were coming out. And even at the age of 10 or 11, when I saw this, I still remember watching it because my mother would just make me watch all of them that came out, and it never stopped. So
that's pretty awesome, man. I think when I was like one of these movies where the kids in school were talking about it a lot, and I think it was on DVD VHS at the time, and maybe cable. But it was like they were talking about it, and we sat there, and they told me the whole plot, every single scene from the whole movie, and I was like, "That's amazing! I got to see it." But at the same time, they were making fun of it too. It was like one of those where we knew it was bad, but we loved it, And then eventually did see it not too long after that, and thought like every scene, I already knew every scene because they told me every scene. But it was just like every scene was just like, wow, it's just like what they said. They described it very good, It's like,
I always wonder if when we were kids and we're watching these films, if we ever think any of them are actually bad, or if they're just films we just don't bother to rewatch again.
Well, the weird thing was like when the kids were talking about it, they wasn't like we were scared of the trucks. It was like there's this scene where the truck comes out behind the guy, and the guy turns around and he's just frozen, and then the truck runs over him, and it's like so dumb. Because he doesn't move, and he could have, It's like stuff like that, And then it's like they shoot people with machine guns, and then they like the editing's weird, but they shoot it, and then they jump, things of that nature. They were like picking it apart like already from like certain things that just didn't didn't make sense, but at the same time, everyone enjoyed it. At the same time, they're like, it's so bad that it's good. But I was like, it was in middle school when this is going on too, So it wasn't like they weren't like that old, So
Yeah. What about you, Philip?
Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, kind of like I was saying earlier, like I also didn't know that this was like the only movie Stephen King ever did until I actually like again when I actually fully watched it and stuff. And like the joke I've heard a lot of people saying is true was like this movie was peak Stephen King on coke. Like drug filled Stephen King. If people need a visualization of like, okay, what does that really mean? Watch the movie and you get a good basis of what that looks like.
yeah. What's weird about that is Stephen King actually openly comes out and says I was probably coked out of my mind when they're making the movie. But people who were working on the movie didn't notice that. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't think he was coked out of his mind. As a matter of fact, some guys that were working on it, they said that they thought he was just like he would drink a lot, and they thought he was drunk the whole time. Which but he might have just been saying he was coked, or maybe he took some coke. But I think he was probably more than likely drunk more than he was like on cocaine.
I wonder if he was drunk because he was directing the movie and he didn't want to direct the movie, or if he was drunk while making the movie.
Well, no, I think I don't know exactly why, but I would think that he wasn't used to being out on a set and having because he writes books, and so he's like used to just being at his house, like getting drunk all day, writing a book, and then now he's like has to be out with a bunch of people like to and shooting a movie.
Mm-hmm.
So he's probably just still doing what he would do at his house, thinking but he's out on a film set.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think it was a very bad first time, you know.
No, yeah, I agree with that. I think it was definitely. Uh, as far, especially if you look at what's on the screen here, this is pretty elaborate, especially with the trucks and all you had to deal with. It's not like an easy film to shoot, and you don't have like digital CGI effects. They had to do stunt work to make those trucks look like there's nobody driving them and stuff. It's very, very dangerous scenes, actually, the way that they had to shoot them.
Well, not only that, but the soundtrack is very iconic for this. And we all know that Stephen King is this huge AC/DC fan for one. And the fact
Yeah,
that, Stephen King has his own band, but to be honest with you, the soundtrack for this movie is still freaking amazing.
yeah. And
Amazing.
it was made specifically for the film, and it actually has three AC/DC songs that are probably some of their best songs.
Yeah.
Like who made who, You Shook Me All Night Long, and Hell's Bells were all made specifically for this movie.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
something
that
good came out of the movie.
yeah. No, it definitely yeah. The fact he got AC/DC, it is, and I think in my opinion, like a good product of its time of just like all the things you would not think when you think AC/DC supplying the soundtrack for something, you would not think for a Stephen King. But hey, it sets the tone for the rest of the movie.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, well, the thing is, and how he asked him obviously, but the thing is, like Stephen King at the time, every movie he'd put out before that, he hadn't directed any, so it was like a big deal that he was directing it, and he asked AC/DC to participate. So they were like, hell yeah! They didn't know what the movie would end up being like. They thought it would be like probably one of the best movies ever made.
Well, that could also be why it doesn't resonate with as many Stephen King fans as I would, most people would suspect with Stephen King, because most of everything else that came before it was a horror film, and this was not really horrifying. It almost just is basically a sci-fi
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
So,
But
for all those who have never seen Maximum Overdrive, essentially the Earth gets stuck in a comet's, I guess, entrails. I don't know what the best word is. And for 7 days, and for those 7 days, all machines come to life.
is it 7 days? Or yeah, I guess but
Yeah,
they don't know that during the course of the movie. But it's apparently in the original short story they didn't have the comment shit, but some reason they had to explain it with the comment. I don't know
yeah.
sure why that came up, but I mean, yeah, it starts off with like some kind of blurbage about the comet, and when it's at night, you can see some green around, so that's the
Mm-hmm.
comet with green residue. but basically, it's some of the rules here are not quite right with what happens, but it's saying that machines in general, including cars, maybe cars, but it's trucks specifically, but a lawnmower, a steamroller truck, a Coke machine, um, a bridge malfunctions, um, but at the same time, it's weird that
Guns
actually
too,
that
like guns also fire
yeah,
by
yeah,
themselves.
right, but then which all that's actually more interesting to me than the trucks, I guess, but as far as when you see the scenes away, I guess what majority of the film takes place in a truck stop, like the trucks have trapped people inside of it. But you see the scenes away from it, like people are trying to get away from these different things, like the Coke machine and all that shit. And some reason they want to go to the truck stop that's being surrounded by trucks, but that's another thing. But anyway, but it's kind of, but but then you have like the weird thing is like when people are driving cars, they don't take over unless they get out of the car. I think you only see maybe one car being used, but most of the time the cars don't seem like they're being used. So I'm not sure exactly what the rules are, but I think they're just like not being. I don't know. What do you think on that?
The rules are kind of loosey goosey because, like with the gun, for example, there's a gun. The gun that's mounted up fires by itself, but
Yeah.
then later on, the characters like have guns stowed in the
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
cases, and none of them are sentient. Like,
Yeah. 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 Big ass rocket launcher. And it's like, yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think of it because that one truck has like a machine gun on it, and that's like the biggest. That's the biggest thing that happens when it shows up. It's like,
Well, I think the one that makes it really weird is that Curtis, I had to write his name. Curtis and his wife, their car doesn't become sentient. They're driving the car, their car for most of the movie until they reach the truck drive. They get chased down by another truck that is sentient, but their car never gets sentient. So
but maybe like you never see anything taken over when somebody's inside of it. So maybe like there isn't really a rules. I don't think they thought it out too good, but you don't ever see anything while they're inside of it. But at the same time, things like electric knife could cut somebody even though you're using it. So,
yeah, I think it'd be a little easier to explain in today's world where everything has a freaking microchip in it.
yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I've heard rumors that Stephen King's son, Joe Hill, wants to do a remake, and I absolutely think he could. Although we just had, I'm not sure if either one of you guys saw the movie Y2K that just came out, but like that has a very similar Maximum Overdrive feel. But I definitely think this movie could be redone today.
I think so too. Yeah. I mean, I think that I think it's a cool idea. I think it's even here I enjoy the movie. This thing is like so it's a lot of fun, really. I think it's really cheesy, but I think it's a lot of fun to me anyway.
I think you are absolutely right with that, and I think that's what makes it last longer than the remake Trucks. The remake, have either one of you actually seen Trucks?
It's a made for TV film with Timothy Busfield in it, right?
Timothy Busfield.
Yeah.
And the problem is that they tried to make it too realistic.
Right.
Not fun at all. And of course, not having the big budget of Stephen King had, you don't have the iconic Goblin truck in there or anything that's like iconic to that film. So it is a compromised film.
They almost got to get that Goblin truck back in there if they do another remake.
I mean, it's
something to that vein that's just very like that you remember.
Right.
Yeah.
So one thing, like for me, ever since I saw this movie, I won't stand in front of a truck, even if it's on or not. It's something I thought about. I didn't think about because I was like, I've almost like every time I see a big truck, I never walk in front of it. I'm like
here.
Yeah, I'm like, nope, not going to do it.
No, same here. I agree with you.
It's like I was like that thing might just come on by itself and run me over.
So I grew up on this movie. I must have seen it, and it's not just because it was Stephen King. Because I knew who Stephen King was. Did not know he directed the movie. Did not know any background because we didn't have like internet and shit back then.
Right. Yeah, I knew that.
I saw the movie originally because I liked Emilio Estevez.
Right. Yeah. It's a great casting, but Stephen King wanted Bruce Springsteen to play that character.
Are you serious?
No.
Good.
But he like didn't know how to make a movie, and he's like wanted Springsteen to do it, and they kind of forced Emilio Estevez on him, and he didn't want to work with him, and so that kind of started Stephen King not really giving a shit that much about the movie a little bit, you know?
Oh wow, that's interesting because that's who holds the movie together.
Yeah, no, really, his performance. I mean, he doesn't phone it in. It's there. You know, you can see like his. It may just be from the bad situation, but he's fairly believable in most of the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
think
they didn't do with Bruce Springsteen is because the producer Dino
De Laurentiis.
yeah,
I think.
Laurentiis did wanted him to use Estevez instead.
Right. Yeah, which is worked out better for the film, but I think it pissed Stephen King off, and he probably went and did more cocaine or whatever. You know?
Oh yeah, no. After that, he was like, okay, I guess it's not my movie and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I hate to say this, as much as I love a lot of Dino's films, you know, he had that reputation because he liked to try and do these big budget films that would get, you know, a lot of cachet with names attached to him. Because you got to remember, he did the remake of King Kong. He did this.
Well, he did like before this. He did 3 Stephen King movies: Dead Zone, Cat's Eye, and Silver Bullet.
Yeah,
Gary Busey actually wanted to be involved with Maximum Overdrive. So from would have been interesting.
yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why they would put him in there. That would have been awesome. But yeah, but but apparently he was like not. He was very hands on, and he doesn't. I don't think he gets like a. He's built as executive producer. He doesn't even get like a true producer's credit, but he was very up in the business of what was going on with the movie.
Yeah, he decided where they filmed. They filmed in. He wanted to film in North Carolina, so they didn't have to use non-union workers.
Mhm.
He was in charge of like he had very hands-on the casting. He also was hands-on on the special effects and the wardrobes too and stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, he was all up in there, and yeah, this film had a $9 million budget. But it didn't do good in the theater. It made about $7 million, so it's ended up being what they considered a bomb. It didn't make its even budget back. That's I think it probably did well though, because
Over the years, it's become a cult movie now.
I know because of because of where I saw it, everybody knew about it, and it was on TV. I'm sure it did really good on rentals or in television. Pretty sure it made its money back after that.
Oh yeah, well I'm a fan. I have a sweater that says that has the goblin like that's Maximum Overdrive. I'm an old school fan. Like I said, I grew up watching this movie. I mean, I guarantee you, I've seen this movie more times than I probably ever should have.
Yeah, same here. It's it was funny too. Like we were talking earlier before we started, which we should have waited for it. But the actress that plays there's like was it the couple that comes up, Connie and Curtis, that Yeardley Smith that does Lisa Simpson's voice. She's like really like obnoxiously over the top in this, in pretty hilarious way. But she's like really southern sounding wife, and she's just yelling at him like Curtis.
That's because she's supposed to be on her honeymoon, and the world goes to shit.
She's pretty funny in it. Apparently she thought she was going to be like or they thought she was going to be like a standout character from the film, and they were going to have her on, I think maybe Entertainment Tonight or something like that, and they kind of planned it, but then they ended up noticing the movie wasn't very good, or so they're like ended up canceling it. But they thought she was going to be like a breakout star after the scenes.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone was a breakout star after this movie. I just know that Emilio Estevez was still doing a shit ton of money of films after this.
Yeah, right.
You know who appeared in it like early on in his career that no one would think he was in?
Yeah, what's his face? The black dude.
Giancarlo Esposito.
Yes. I just noticed that for the first time. I'm like, holy shit, that's Giancarlo Esposito.
Yep,
right.
That was early in his career.
That's
the video player guy who gets killed by the vending machine.
Yeah, I was like, holy crap! I did not realize that. But like I say, almost every actor has a freaking horror film in their closet.
But this, that video. Speaking of the video game machine scene, that's hilarious. Like he's in there playing the video game, and for some reason it comes up with this. It tries to hypnotize him, and it does, and then it electrocutes him. and then they never do that again. It's like that's another thing. They're like, okay, that's kind of cool. Why don't we do that, but then not do it again rest of the film? Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense, but it was cool to do.
yeah, right,
That
right.
was the big theme of the movie was everything that happened was just it was the rule of cool. Like,
Yeah.
does it look cool? We're gonna do it. Does it make sense? Nah.
Oh.
What's interesting earlier on during that Coke machine scene, it starts spitting out Coke
Uh-huh.
cans and killing little kids or teenage kids. Oh, well, actually they're younger than teenagers. They're like kids playing baseball,
Uh-huh.
killing them, and then a steamroller comes in and runs over one of them real graphically. Like, yes,
Again, it back in that time, like
yeah,
that's honestly another like cool thing about it is back in that time where hey, kids doesn't matter they can die just as easily as adults. Nowadays, you rarely get a kid dying, but back then it's like you want to see a kid get run over by a steamroller? Let's do it.
you're
Yeah.
right. Yeah, but they'll do it now. But then they'll rate it like rated R, NC-17 or whatever. I think this might be, but like in the Terrifier movies, they don't give a shit.
Hey,
It's
But
just
or
that
yeah.
for you that do it because or if you
not
see it
rated.
today, it'll be like you'll see the steamroller come to the kid, then they'll turn away the camera and then come back and then you'll see like maybe some like blood on the floor or something.
Well, you got to keep in mind that after a while, whenever that, I think the late '80s, I think it was late '80s, where censors were getting really pushed from parents about violence, and then that's where you get the sanitized Friday 13th movies, where they cut out all the gore because parents were having a hissy fit on movies that
Right.
rated R to begin with, so there shouldn't be kids watching
Yeah.
these freaking movies.
Right. Yeah, like Friday the 13th Part 7 got completely derailed because of
Yeah,
that.
I
Man,
was
it's
like,
like it looks like when you're watching that film, it looks like you're watching like a television edit of the movie because they
mm.
just cut everything out of it that was like the least bit of, like offensive. To the I got a very hilarious line. I wrote this down from the movie because it has the name of the movie in the dialogue in the
Oh,
film.
go ahead, you got the line.
So the girl's name's Brett, like Emilio Estevez. And here's another thing that's happening. Like Emilio Estevez, and these trucks are surrounding the diner or the truck stop, and then everybody's like, "Oh shit, there's trucks!" And then for some reason, Emilio Estevez's character, who's just a fry cook, goes off with this girl, and they go hang out in the bedroom and have sex in the bedroom. And then they're like, after that, hanging around, and she's like, been hitching her away from Florida. And he's like, "Is that what you've been doing?" She's like, "That's what I was doing before every machine in the world went into maximum overdrive." And then she does this really fake cry. And then she's like, "I'm scared."
Yeah, the one person who has a knife and will stab a person at any moment's notice wants to cry at that moment. I like,
Yeah. It's like, it was such a fake cry. It's just like, I don't even know what the fuck was going on with that. It's like, goes in the maximum overdrive. I'm scared. He's like, "Come over here. I'll protect you. I'm Emilio Estevez."
well, that's the thing about the movie. She starts off being a very strong character, and
Yeah.
then I forget the one person gets killed, the person that she was hitching a ride with,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
she becomes this whimpering
Right.
little person who needs Emilio Estevez to protect her.
So it's, yeah, it was like this Bible salesman creep
I,
guy. It was hilarious. Yeah, when they're in the car and he's just like, yeah, and he like reaches over there and like touches her leg, and she actually handles it pretty good in that scene. She just kind of brushes it off, and he does it again, and then she threatens him, but she's like handling it pretty good for the most part. But this guy's like one of the worst dudes you can ever imagine, you know. But then later on, he goes back. It's hilarious. He's having like a scene. I mean, he's talking to this other waitress and someone else trying to sell him Bibles. And then somebody hits his car. He jumps up, and the girl he was talking to, he's like, "Get out of my way, bitch!" And he actually says that in the movie. And he goes running out the door. And then the trucks like knock him off the road into the ditch. And he's like, you think he's dead. But then later on, he's not dead, and he's screaming. And then for some reason, the most piece of shit person in the world, they decide they want to go save him and risk all their lives to go save him.
I noticed that too when I was rewatching it. I was like, why are they trying to go save the guy that they all hated?
Yeah,
That makes no sense.
yeah. He's like, yeah, he's like calling him. He's like, "Get him away, bitch!" And then plus he was like groping women and he was just terrible. But luckily they go to try to save him, and it becomes like a big plot point, and they have a mission. They have to go under. They go through the sewer to get there, and then at the same time, the kid that's dad's was hanging out at the gas station is there, and they were able to save him, so it all worked out. But it was very contrived. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's a plot thing. They need to go save the bad Bible salesman in order to find the kid, who for the rest of the movie really doesn't do much for the plot. But it's kind of hard that because we all have seen his father die earlier.
Yeah, but it'd be one thing though if they were going to go save the kid, but they're going to go save the Bible salesman who's dying, and then they just happen to accidentally save the kid. So
Yeah.
I don't. It's
Yeah, they just come upon him.
yeah, yeah. So they're talking about him the whole movie. They're like Deke this, Deke that. Oh, Deke's dad's dead. Too bad. You know.
You're so right. I have to think about all that. When you're watching this as a kid, you don't think about the logic for some of this stuff. And when I was rewatching it, I had to start actually taking into consideration some of the logic of this movie. And that could be one of the bad things, or it's one of the good things, because it makes a film more fun when you don't have to think about the logic of the film. But when you're
Yeah.
trying to watch it as a critical eye, it's like, why did they do this shit?
Right. And it kind of to me it makes it more fun to be able to pick it apart because it's stupid and it's just like it's like I guess if you're thinking about it and it's aggravating you that they're basically here's what we have to do with the plot. I mean, clearly you could have the easiest way to have done it would have been them to know the kid was over there and they have to go save him. So why bother with the Bible salesman? But another thing that Stephen King does here, and he does this in a lot of his other novels. There's two very similar films to this, The Mist and Storm of the Century, which is actually a miniseries, where people are trapped in one place, and you got a bunch of different personalities who are conflicting with each other, having to kind of try to deal with it, try to deal with the situation, which ends up causing people to get killed because they can't get along, you know. But you do have like him setting up specifically the character played by Pat Hingle, who's like the owner of the truck stop. Was it Bubba Hendershot's his name? But Pat Hingle, I recognize him from the Batman movies. He played Gordon in the Batman movies with Michael Keaton, but he's also in a lot of westerns and stuff like that. And he's a pretty good actor, but here he kind of plays like the owner, and he's at odds with Emilio Estevez's character for no reason really. If they were just working together, they could have like done a little bit better. He is actually the one that has all the guns in the basement and comes out with a rocket launcher, and then he gets in a big argument with it over Emilio Estevez, how they're his guns. Like I don't know. He's unnecessary tension, I think. But
well, you gotta keep in mind that his character is a character who uses felons and everyone else so he can manipulate them. When Emilio Estevez looks over at all the time cards and he sees the stars next to all of them, he recognizes that most everyone who works there is in the same position that he is in, that they are all trapped there and they have to do whatever Bubba tells them to, or they could end up going back to jail or wherever they came from.
Right. And yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It is I think it's kind of cool the way that it's good that it's almost like a Night of the Living Dead thing, really, when you think about how it's put together. And you got that one asshole who shows up there who's just like, he's not really in tune with everybody else and ends up causing most of the people to get killed because of how ridiculous he is,
Yeah.
But it doesn't go that far in this film, though, as far as him getting the people killed. But it does like a little bit of tension, but it doesn't cause as much as it does in Night of the Living Dead.
No.
Yeah. Then you've got the weird plot line too, where they discovered that all the trucks wanted them. Like the reason the trucks wanted them there so they could fill up their gas and stuff, because that's how they're staying alive.
Yeah.
And it's so you get the really comedic scene where, like, after they figured that out, you get all these trucks all lined up, ready to get filled, and it was just like, oh, like again, that's a part of where it's like becomes a kind of an intentional comedy to a point.
Yeah, and that's funny to me because, and I was cracking up because of how out of like they're sitting there pumping gas, and it makes them so tired, like the humans. They're doing it for like a couple hours, and they're like, oh my God, I can't pump any more gas. And somebody actually comes out there to Emilio Estevez. He's like, I'll take over from here, man. You go take a break. He's like, you've been pumping gas for 5 minutes. Go ahead. But and the thing is, like, Emilio Estevez's character is a fry cook who stands over the fucking fries. He's going to be just as hot as he would be sitting there pumping gas. They act like doing manual labor is like the worst thing in the world. It is, but it's hot. You know.
Well, keep in mind that for a good bit of the movie in the second act, those people are just lounging around doing nothing.
Oh yeah.
Which is I never noticed that until I rewatched it. I was like, there's no plot really. They're just trapped in the gas station diner, and they're literally just waiting, doing nothing.
They wait. There's no plot until they start going into like we need to save the Bible salesman.
Yeah, yeah.
But it takes so long to get there and stuff, and so it's just like,
yeah.
There's a lot of middling around until then.
And there's a lot of like Emilio Estevez like taking the girl into the other guy's room
Yeah.
and it's just like, because it's like, do we really need the scenes, like those scenes? Like it almost seems like
a lot of them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't
see what they could have done is
yeah.
peppered in like the scenes of like the steamroller and the video player and stuff throughout the story, so you could see what's going on. But no, they just tacked that all in at the beginning, so then you're just stuck in this gas station with the characters, and that is it until the end.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
But they do things like the which is hilarious, was that one waitress who cut with a knife, and then the Bible says "Get out of my way, bitch" to her, but she like starts losing her shit, and she keeps going, "We made you," Yeah, it's like coming from the AC/DC song, like "Who Made Who." I'm not sure if "Who Made Who" came first or "We Made You," But she's like starts screeching it, and they have to like pull her back a few times, and and it's like finally she goes out there and gets killed, and they're like
riddance.
But it's like they start coming up with like different ways of like putting the characters in there in danger, because that's the thing, they're sitting inside of a truck stop, and it's proved later on, but look, what protection do they have from these trucks? It's a truck stop, and later on they have no protection. These trucks could have like ran over the thing at any point.
Yeah,
they literally just keep them alive so they could fill up their gas.
Yeah, but they got rid of a lot of them when they shoot the machine gun through the gas station. You see how the background characters finally die, so they don't have to worry about those.
Yeah. Well, they kill like Pat Hinkel's Bubba Hendershot character too once that happens. So he was like a major character. So it was, but they do like kill some of the background characters. But it's like you think that they would have tried a little earlier to get in touch with everybody and let them know that they needed fuel instead of just killing everybody. I guess they wanted to let them know that if they didn't fill the trucks up, they were going to kill them.
Yeah. Well,
but then they don't. Luckily, the kid gets there because he's the only one there who knows Morse code, and that's how So that's no one else there could have known it. And then the the military like cart that comes up with a machine gun is the one that honks its horn. Like none of the other horns on the trucks, they wouldn't know Morse code because they're not military.
Oh my God! So yes, we spend a lot of time on a lot of the early part. Wait, I guess it's the second act in the beginning of the first act where we follow the kid, where his ball team is assaulted by the drink machine, and then he's running to the gas station or riding a bicycle, and we don't know how far away they are. And then of course we're watching Curtis and his newlywed wife driving until they just happen to come across a billboard that says, "Curtis, let's go to the gas station."
They go to one gas station first, and it's like doesn't work out too good. So they figure we'll just try another one, see if it's better there.
We'll figure it out. We'll get to the plot somehow.
Yeah. They all want to get in there, and they actually risk their lives to get in there. They're like, hey, there's people in there. Why don't we try to like gun it? There's like a in between these two trucks. There's like a bit of a space. We'll gun it in there, and then they do it, and then they get hit, and the whole car flips over. And they almost get killed for no reason. They just want to be in there with everybody else who's trapped for some reason.
Exactly. And the people inside the gas station are saying, what are they doing?
But, yes,
You
yeah,
thought the plot was here.
yeah.
You
Like,
know what? I've read the original story when I was a kid. I probably should reread it. I know it was a short story from, I
yeah.
think it was Night Shift. So don't
Yeah.
quote me. I think
It's in Night Shift. It's not very long. It's like 10 pages maybe or
yeah.
something like that.
Well, they did essentially what they did with the Lawnmower Man short, and they expanded it a lot.
You're right. I don't think they used any of the Lawnmower Man at all for the Lawnmower Man short. And Stephen King actually like sued him and got his name taken off of that movie.
Hey, it
Yeah.
has Lawnmower Man, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There's a
Yes. But
lawnmower and there's a man.
yeah. That movie's pretty entertaining though. It's bad, but it's actually pretty cool cast like Pierce Brosnan and
I
Jeff
love the
Fahey.
first one. I
Yeah.
love the first one. I hate the second
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. I
I
hadn't
love the
seen
first
that
one.
one. Was it Matt Frewer's in the second one,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it was god
Yeah.
awful. It was god awful.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah.
which
Yeah.
talking again about going back to with Maximum Overdrive too, talking about like how they definitely I think they struggle a little bit of padding out the thing. So by the time you get to the end, instead of there being exposition or we see the aftermath kind of like a War of Tomorrow, War of the Worlds. It's just titles thing of this is what happened after everyone was okay, and like this is what happened.
Yeah.
There was an alien ship and we shot it down with the laser, but we didn't have the budget for that, so we're just going to talk about it.
Yeah. And it's like to me that's almost like doesn't do it for me. I'm like, no. You can't just say there's a UFO. I mean, no one understands what you're talking about. It's like
Yeah. It's like the most interesting part of the whole story is a bit of text at the end of the movie. It's like,
yeah.
wait, this was all aliens the entire time. Wait. Let's go back to that. What?
Yeah. Yeah, there's no mention of aliens within the actual dialogue of the movie. If you don't read the beginning and end titles, you'd have no idea that there's aliens in the movie,
But it's a Stephen King story, so Stephen King has to have aliens somewhere. The aliens are a cause of a lot of stuff in a lot of Stephen King stories.
Well, I mean, I think it's aliens would cause things like that to happen, and also Indian burial grounds. So it's like, no, but seriously,
Aliens or something supernatural.
yeah. But
And there's always
aliens,
a psychic, although there's no psychic in this story, surprisingly, because usually
Yeah.
there's a psychic in the stories.
All right, there's not one. He missed out. He missed out on that.
No, he was on coke. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh Jesus! That's I don't know what else to say. Do you guys think you have fun with this movie? Do you rewatch it? Is it a fun movie? Because the people who are listening to this need to know whether or not it's a bad movie or if it's a fun movie. Because we all know it's definitely not a great movie.
It is a bad fun movie. It is a movie that you can watch, like grab some friends, grab some beers, watch it, and laugh. It's an enjoyable bad movie.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And yeah, I guess if if it bothers you, like these leaps in logic of the script, to me it's like it's one that you have to know that there's leaps in logic and a lot of it doesn't make sense, and that's to me what makes it a lot of fun. But there's also, like I said before, there is some cool stuff on the screen here, like when you see the stunt work and the trucks and even some of the special effects look really nice. I do have one more thing to say about the film that I was holding back on. But at the end,
back. Don't hold back.
Yeah.
It's about holding back.
Yeah, I was holding back until the end because I wanted to talk about the end last. And this is like the thing that really is I guess they broke the rules the worst. At the very end of the film, they get on a boat and drive away, and then the credits come up and they're safe. Why is the boat okay and not to drive on? Maybe because of the water. I don't know. But I know in the from what I read, I hadn't seen it. The trucks movie at the very end of the movie, they get on a helicopter, and then they correct this, and the helicopter crashes or on purpose or something like that. Or they find out there's nobody driving the helicopter; it's driving itself.
Huh.
That's what happens from what I've read. I haven't seen it, but at least they did that to correct the boat driving not being them getting on the boat wouldn't be as bad if the credits right then didn't come up and say everybody survived and they lived happily ever after or whatever it says, Say it.
To be honest with you, I never took, or I probably don't remember as much as I do this recent watch about the alien thing.
Yeah, well, I ignored it. I never I've always ignored it. I'm like, that's stupid.
I
Yeah,
think I've always ignored it.
I'm not reading that shit.
Because I thought that was weird too when I rewatched it. And said, aliens? What the fuck? I don't
Yeah.
want to do this.
Like,
I was fine with there just being there's a comet trail that the Earth goes through, and everything goes back to normal after 7 days. That's all I needed to know.
it is like a world of worlds thing. It's like very elaborate text in there that is talking about like some really oddball stuff happening with the UFO. The UFO finally left, and I'm like, no, that doesn't really compute with me. I'm going to ignore that.
I think I had forgotten about that for years and just kind of ignored it myself. But I can attest that like I've said before, I've seen this movie a lot when I was a kid. Until I rewatched it, I don't think I had seen it in a good decade at least.
Actually, let me read it real quick. So
you got it. Okay, yeah, read words.
It's 2 days later, the machines go silent when a UFO hiding in the comet's tail is destroyed by a Soviet space platform disguised as a weather satellite equipped with a Class 4 nuclear missiles and a laser cannon. 6 days later, Earth passes out of the comet's tail, and the survivors are still alive.
So again, you're like, wait, that sounds like a badass movie. You've got a freaking Soviet space laser rocket. Like, I want to see that shit. And it's like, nope,
Yeah.
that's the end.
No,
we only had a $9 million budget. That would have been the whole budget.
This is crossing over to Toby Hooper's Life Force, where they find the spaceship in Halley's Comet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you two have seen that one, but that's
definitely.
That's essentially what happens.
They're like really obsessed with Halley's Comet and comets in general during.
Night of the Comet. Oh my god!
Well, then Night of the Comet surprisingly was after this, but maybe like the people who made Night of the Comet saw this and they're like, "I got an idea."
Oh my god! Oh, geez.
I mean, it would be fine if it's a book because you're like, oh, okay, but if it's a movie. When it's a movie, you're like, wait a minute, I want to see the interesting thing. You can't just throw that out there at the last second and then be like, all right, good night, everyone.
Yeah, but you really in order you almost had to show this throughout the movie in different parts of the film and not just all of a sudden at the end,
Even like this dialogue, like you could even do something as simple as like put in the background of the characters are listening to the radio and they're hearing this in the background on the radio. That could have been a better way to integrate that other than just tonal whiplash at the end there.
Well, when someone bothers to remake this, and I'm sure there will be someone to remake it again because everything old that Stephen King is now becoming new again. We'll have to make sure that they know that they have to put in the alien story somehow and all tie it in.
Has Stephen King's son directed? I don't think he's directed anything, has he?
Joe Hill? I don't think he's directed anything.
I guess
episodes of his shows.
I guess he plans the only movie he'll ever make, just like his dad, will be Maximum Overdrive.
That would be great. Again, I actually think he's hard. Stephen King's very hard on himself, but I definitely think he could. I definitely think he could direct another movie.
I think he could have directed another movie if he could stop. At this age now, he better just stick to that typewriter and keep churning out books when he said he was supposed to be retired. He keeps telling people he's going to retire. He keeps coming out of retirement because his brain won't stop working.
Right. I mean, I agree that I agree with you as well, Kevin, but I agree that he was hard on himself for this film. I don't think it's as bad as, I think that it was bad because it bombed, and that was the worst thing. But as far as the film, I think it's definitely harder on himself than he should have been, and I think that he could have what you see on screen is pretty good. There's something else I was going to say about this. Is fucked up, but apparently one of the guys, the director of photography, they were all like he was
Yeah, you're talking
yeah,
about the lawnmower story.
yeah, the lawnmower store. Yeah, he was like I can't remember what he didn't speak English. I think he was French, not French. It was
Italian.
probably
It was
maybe Italian. I think you're right. It's Italian. There's Armando Nanzui, but apparently they were shooting the lawnmower soon. The lawnmower comes to life, and he was like, everyone was telling Stephen King, like several people were like, "Hey man, we should take the blades out of that lawnmower." And he's like, "No, no, it's going to look more realistic with the blades in there, even though you couldn't see the blades." And then it hit some kind of piece of like rigging for the camera crew, and it popped into the director of photography's eye, and he actually lost his eye because of it.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
yeah,
So maybe yeah.
he that was basically it. He sued Stephen King, sued the production, which he won. And then after that, but then yeah, that was like it for his career basically.
Right, but maybe that's another reason why Stephen King didn't want to do it as well, because if he, he was kind of he was kind of ridiculous. I guess he was kind of like in a way full of himself there, doing the scene, not listening to the other people because he's Stephen King, and he's like, we got to have the lawnmower blade in there, so
Huh.
maybe he felt bad about that. At the same time, I think if he would have made some more movies, clearly he would have gotten better at doing it, and he's already pretty good. And he picked a very ambitious movie to try to direct first. And
Yeah.
he really thought he was trying to scare people with this. And I guess in a way, it kind of like it did scare people to be about trucks and stuff like that. But it's not creepy, scary like you would
No.
think from a Stephen King movie.
It's funny because I will say this. I think if we're talking about scary trucks, the Stephen King movie that beats this on having scary trucks is Pet Cemetery. The
Right? Yeah,
semi
yeah.
and Pet Cemetery scared the crap out of me as a kid. That's the small scenes with that I still remember to this day more than like with Maximum Overdrive.
When did Pet Cemetery come out?
Let's see.
89, I think.
Fuck me too.
Yeah, yeah,
So I saw Pet Cemetery at the theater when I was like 13,
yeah. Yeah.
14 years
That's
old.
funny. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we actually did a podcast on Pet Cemetery.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I,
yeah, I really like Pet Cemetery. It was one of the it's one of the last movies that I remember actually being scared of while I was watching. I was pretty young when I saw it. And I remember it did scare me, that one, and that one's definitely a lot scarier than this film. This film never outright scared me, but like I said before, I don't walk in front of trucks because of it. Yeah, so
yeah.
but and I have like thought, and I'm like, I have to stop myself from thinking, and I'm like, that thing could come to life, and I'm like, wait a minute, trucks don't come to life.
I hate to say this, but I don't think there's any Stephen King movie that when I originally saw them as a kid, it actually scared me, unfortunately. I That's one of the bad things of being raised
Yeah,
on a mother who absolutely loves Stephen King, read the books. So the books were always in my house. And I've seen most of them in the 80s, late 80s and 90s. I saw all of them at the theater with my mom because those were literally the only movies she'd go see at the theater. She was not a theater goer, but she'd go out of the way to see a Stephen King movie. And
yeah,
I saw
that's awesome. That's awesome. Did you do you remember what movie did scare you last, or a movie that did scare you when you were younger? That I mean, obviously you wouldn't be anymore. But
Well, I do remember the first time I saw Creep Show, but I saw that at HBO at like midnight or something like that because that's when they would play, and that scared the crap out of me as a kid. Mostly the cockroach story, the one
yeah,
that
yeah.
ends it.
That's cool. Yeah, that's based on Stephen King though.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the whole movie that scared me. It was literally that one story because I had a fear of bugs. I had a fear of
Yeah.
bugs as a kid. But like The Nest, the bug movie, The Nest with the cockroaches,
Right, right.
that didn't scare me. But
That was a lot later though, right?
yeah, yeah, that was later. But Creepshow did that thing freaked me the fuck out as a kid.
It's done so well in that one though. The white walls and just
Mhm.
and then you got the really the black cockroaches, so they show up so good, and it was very very well done.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
E.G. Marshall plays the character in that scene.
Yeah, but like that whole movie doesn't scare me. I mean, the one with Stephen King as the that it
Yeah,
grows on you. I actually love the one, the surf one with Ted Danson in it. Those
yeah,
didn't scare
Leslie
me.
Nelson. Yeah,
No, those
I
didn't
think
scare me.
right. I don't know if any like. Yeah, I mean, I don't. If you think about any of them being scary, I mean, they're all not really set up to be that scary. And then you got the opening one, which is like the birthday one, but that
Hmm.
one's not scary either. Yeah, I think that one with the roaches, a lot of people have a hard time watching that one. And
Hmm.
the crate's the other one in there, but none of the other ones are scary. They're entertaining, but they don't kind of get under your skin like that one can.
The crate, I thought that was how Tasmanian devils really look. So I thought, oh, this is so cool. I was a warped kid. I thought that one was cool.
Yeah. So
um,
you wanna rate this film?
we most certainly need to rate this film. Yes.
All right.
Who wants to go first? Philip, we're going to rate this 1 to 5 stars, one being low, five being high.
Um, so there's like a two scale. So this is objectively not a good movie. But it's not a boring movie. Again, it's a fun movie to go watch with friends, with some beer and stuff. So with that in mind, I would probably give it a 2.5 out of 5.
Okay.
For the same reason he said, except for I'm going to be a little more generous to it because of the nostalgia factor for me. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars.
Okay. For me, it is definitely a nostalgia thing because I grew up with it. So I was going to give it a 3 stars because of the fact that I did grow up on this movie. I've seen it a lot. I think I will not enjoy it as much as I normally would have because this last time I watched it, I was watching it more critically. And I think that if you do that, your enjoyment of the film, especially if you're a first timer, will not be as high as someone like me who grew up on it. If you're expecting high regards to Stephen King material, this is not it. But between the amazing soundtrack, Emilio Estevez, who seems to, and that's the thing about this movie, everyone actually seems like they're doing a good job in this movie. There's not one person in particular who seems like they're doing a bad job.
I think that's like I say, some of them actually thought this movie was going to be really well received.
Mhm.
I think that they were making the movie and they thought it was going to be well received. That's part of what makes it good too,
Yeah,
because they're trying.
yeah,
So,
exactly. It's not like with trucks. I do remember that it seemed like everyone was bored when they were made
yeah,
trucks. Because I like Timothy Busfield, and I'm like, Jesus,
yeah.
why is he slumming in this movie? But I think that's why I would give it a 3 star. It's because I will watch this again. I will. This is not like some of the other. There are some Stephen King movies I have not bothered to watch more than once. I don't know if it's any good, but Hearts in Atlantis, I got through it once, just barely. I don't think I'm gonna watch it again ever. There's just some Stephen King ones they don't do anything, absolutely nothing for me. But this one I've seen a lot. Like I said, I own apparel with maximum overdrive on it. So 3 stars is my thing for this. So with that, I want to thank you guys for joining me on this conversation of horror, which we delved into Stephen King's Maximum Overdrive. If we ever am able to get a good copy of Trucks, we might do Trucks one day. But until that time, I want to thank everyone for out there for listening to the podcast. Make sure to check out any and all of our previous episodes, especially ones on stuff like Pet Cemetery, which we've already done, and we've got a lot coming up for the rest of the year in regards to Stephen King. So be on the lookout for those. Just to give you a little heads up, we do have episodes coming up on the graveyard shifts and the dead zone, to name a few, and Firestarter. So we got some stuff coming up for the rest of the year. With that, I want to thank you for joining us at Conversation in Horror. Everyone out there from us at Something Wicked Entertainment, have a good day. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.